Hi, my name is Nicholas Drake, and I wrote a paper on cell phones' impact on modern society. I'm going to start with the introduction, discuss the beginning, the development, and today's usage. From there, I'm going to move into the basic principles, starting with the history of cell phones, their rapid development, and some statistics on that, as well as the impact of this technology, both on society, on personal and primary relations, on the country, and the safety effects of having one. From there, I'm going to move into a personal assessment and wrap everything up with some conclusions based on corrective action and a reflection. Today's society has become so reliant and comfortable with technology that the youngest generation hardly notices it is even there. After all, for those of us 30 years and younger, we have never had a time in our lives when personal computers and even electronic gaming weren't available to us. The latest boom taking over the world, especially in China, India, and the United States, is cellular phones. Cell phones began as a way to communicate in emergencies and were typically only carried in a vehicle. They began as large, awkward devices carried in a bag due to their immense size. Typically, these devices would need to be plugged into the cigarette lighter of a car to even power them during a call. It didn't take long, though, to see that there was a growing demand for these, and people began to use cell phones for more than emergencies and more for checking in with each other, or seeing what somebody needed from the grocery and things like that. As with any product with potential, manufacturers jumped on the opportunity. The focus at first was to make them smaller so that they could be carried at all times, and after that hurdle was jumped, the next was battery power. It was not feasible to have a plug-in mobile device several times a day. So after these issues were dealt with, cellular phones were able to emerge as the primary means of communication today. There are currently 5.3 billion mobile subscribers worldwide, which is 77% of the world population. That statistic seems a little high. I feel like some people have more than one line and one per name. And this growth is led by China and India, according to MobiThinking.com. With a growth rate like this, it's safe to say that mankind has never been as dependent on technology than we currently are. Moving on to some basic principles of cell phones' impact on society. The principle behind a cell phone all began back in 1832 with Samuel Morse. Morse dreamed of a device which would become known as the telegraph, which could send messages by electricity. In 1835, he constructed an experimental version of this device. However, a passing ship pulled a portion of his wiring up, which was underwater. Morse wasn't really affected by that. He decided to try it without the cable and use the water itself as the medium for the message. And it turned out this worked, and he formed the process of wireless communication by conduction, according to the history of .net. The next logical step by other great minds of that time was to find new mediums for wireless communication. Michael Faraday and James Clerk Maxwell wanted to prove that wireless communication could be performed through empty space, not needing water or cables as a medium. After extensive research by Maxwell, he proved that light, electricity, and magnetism were all related, and all of these worked hand in hand, and all electromagnetic phenomena travel in waves. Building on this knowledge, Dr. Mahlon Loomis of Virginia, who was a dentist, may have been the first person to actually communicate through wireless via the atmosphere. Between 1866 and 1873, he transmitted telegraphic messages at a distance of 18 miles between the tops of Cohocton and Beorse Deer Mountains in Virginia. He actually developed a method of transmitting and receiving messages by using the Earth's atmosphere as a conductor and launching kites enclosed with copper screens that were linked on the ground with copper wires, also according to the history of .net. This was an amazing accomplishment of the people of this time. Before wireless communication, all messages were written and hand-delivered. This took several days or even months to reach their destination, which is why we use the term snail mail today. This achievement actually opened up the possibility of immediate communication over great distances, which obviously appealed to the masses at the time. It almost seemed like magic. Now that the groundwork had been laid and the possibility of communicating through open space was proven, technology needed time to catch up. And it wasn't until the late 60s and early 70s that Bell Labs and Motorola had finally found the needed components to make a cellular phone, and they were racing to be the first to do so. Martin Cooper of Motorola won that race in 1973 with the Motorola Dynatac on April 3rd in New York City. They put on a public display of their accomplishment, and pretty much amazed the entire city. However, Cooper was not satisfied yet. His vision was for personal wireless communications. This is a quote from Cooper. People want to talk to other people, not a house, not an office, not a car. Given a choice, people will demand the freedom to communicate wherever they are, unfettered by the infamous copper wire. It is that freedom that we sought to vividly demonstrate in 1973. And after 10 years, the Dynatac was introduced to the public in 1983, taking 7 additional years to reach 1 million subscribers. One of the most amazing aspects of cellular phones is the rapid development and acceptance of them, from nothing more than an idea in the late 1800s, when hardly any electronic devices were being used, to a full-out functioning mobile communication device a short 100 years later. In spite of the unbelievable demand, it took cellular phone service 37 years total to become commercially accessible in the U.S., according to the Cellular Telecommunications Industry Association. Today, there are more than 60 million customers with cellular phones, even though wireless service was just invented nearly 50 years ago. The cellular business was a $3 million market 25 years ago and has grown increasingly to close to $30 billion per year industry, according to cellphones.org. The impact of this technology is the next section, and the impacts of being able to wirelessly communicate across land masses and bodies of water are virtually limitless. This technology is useful on almost any level. The demand began for emergencies and business use, but markets typically driven by consumer demand, and the consumers demanded this technology for personal use. While personal digital assistants, or PDAs, were born out of business needs such as mobile email, calendars, web browsing, they have blossomed into an everyday luxury item to a typical person. No longer is waiting for a doctor appointment boring. The internet is always at your fingertips. Mobile gaming is an enormous industry right now, as programmers are able to develop more sophisticated games for mobile devices as the computing power and displays are getting better and better every day. This access to mobile internet can take any dull moment and allow a person to stay occupied. But it also allows a person to use their downtime productively, to reply to emails or work on papers, all from the cell phone. According to TopCallingCards.com, for the contributions to society, it is argued in detail that mobile phones help to create an informative, connected, culturally innovative, participative, and converging society through infrastructure development, better business practices, improvements in the public sector, and contributions to collective welfare of individuals and social responsibility. Cell phones create positive changes in the dynamics of the society, and this involves contributions such as competence in communications and accessibility of information. However, there are downsides to being disconnected at all times. Old-fashioned communication is waning, such as just sitting around and casually talking, especially with family. I notice that in teenagers in high school, if they become bored during family times, they can always resort to surfing the web, Facebook, or texting their friends instead of building those valuable relationships with family. This results in a strained family life and less meaningful relationships. Although this technology allows a person to have more relationships, they're shallower and less developed. So next I'm going to address a personal assessment. I feel that cellular phones are absolutely the future of communication. In the near future, desktop computers will be obsolete and laptops will be replaced by tablets, which double as phones. The handheld devices will likely contain all of the computing power ever needed by an individual and will only be tethered to a larger screen for easier viewing or for touchscreen typing. I have been a Verizon wireless sales rep for right around a year now, and in that short period of time, we have rolled out at least 50 new devices, each one beating the last one in technological power. My personal cell phone has a 1 GHz processor, an LCD touchscreen, and an 8 megapixel camera, also capable of recording high-definition videos. Very soon, phones will have dual-core processors, and since I even wrote this, we've released a couple with dual-core processors that are faster than the computer I am currently using. The technology to use your phone as your debit card is already being used in other countries and will likely follow suit in the United States very soon. So you won't need a debit card anymore. You can simply slide your phone over a magnetic tracker and it can debit your account for you. Many consumers are already replacing their recently purchased car GPS devices for cell phones. It's just another example in the trend of people spending large amounts of money on cellular devices, even in these hard economic times. A data package for one smartphone with Verizon is $29.99 per month, with many families having 3 to 4 data plans on one account. You're going to hear the families complaining of financial struggles and lack of economic resources. Well, maybe they need to reflect on their cellular phone bill for right around $300 a month on average. I feel that cellular phones are a great piece of technology and that the good outweighs the bad in this field. As mentioned before, cell phones will generally increase productivity, mobility, communication, safety, and connectedness. The advancements in this business and being able to keep in touch with family and friends alone have been well worth the development of these devices, and I'm glad that they have become what they are today. So in conclusion, cellular phones are very useful in today's fast-paced world. The job market is very competitive, and it helps to be able to instantly respond to an employer needs and be able to balance work and personal life from anywhere when you have a free moment. Cell phones are not going to be disappearing anytime soon. In fact, they'll be spreading even more rapidly in the next few years as children are getting them at younger ages every single year. If a person is aware of how to balance real face-to-face relationships with the ability to conduct many wireless relationships, there's really no downside to having this wireless technology, even at a young age. Cellular phones have helped shape our modern society into an untethered and fast-paced world capable of better business practices, increased communications, increased infrastructure, and mobile computing that would amaze the people of past generations. Thank you.